It's the end of an era at Manchester City as Sergio Aguero is officially leaving the club at the end of the season. Hey guys, Fletch here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Fletch Talks video. You should hopefully know the drill by now. This is where I take a trending topic or a topic of interest within the world of football. I bring it here where I put it under the microscope. We talk about it, we discuss it, and we may even debate about it. And today's video, of course, is no exception, as today we are talking about the news that Sergio Aguero will officially be leaving Manchester City at the end of the season when his contract expires. Before we go any further though, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's get on with talking about Sergio Aguero, who will be leaving Manchester City come the end of the season. He produced what is easily the greatest final day, end of season moment in Premier League history. He scored what is arguably the most iconic and one of the most important goals of the Premier League era. The Aguero moment will live forever in the memories of Manchester City fans, as well as be replayed over and over and over and over and over and over again in Premier League archives across that same time period. It was his first season in England at a time, and it was the moment where City began where City's plan to begin their takeover of English football with the money they possessed, the power that they were going to have from that money, and the quality that they were going to get from both things, began with their first Premier League title in the modern era. Aguero signed for Manchester City back in 2011 from Spanish side Atletico Madrid for a fee believed to be in the region of £38 million. Quite the bargain when you consider that 10 years later he is set to leave the club with a number of accomplishments, accolades, awards and winners' medals all to his name. During his time with the club, Aguero was a major part in City winning the Premier League title on 4 occasions, an FA Cup triumph, 5 League Cup victories and 3 Community Shields. And let's face it, by the end of this season you could be adding a further Premier League title, FA Cup and League Cup triumph to that already growing list of achievements and accomplishments for both club and player, as City look to be closing in on another Premier League title. They are in the semi-finals of the FA Cup and they are in the final of the Carabao Cup, which of course was delayed from the final being normally played in February to the end of the season to hopefully get in more fans. Aguero could also be on the verge of even more history with the club before he even leaves, as City are currently in the quarter-final stages of the Champions League, a trophy that City are yet to win, yet to be victorious in. But this season they stand a very good chance of doing that and finally winning a trophy that they have wanted and craved for so long. And what a way to leave the club than by delivering that trophy, the trophy that every City fan and every member of the Manchester City club want. It would also mean that Aguero's got some sort of psychic powers, because remember this famous newspaper clipping of Aguero saying he wouldn't leave City until he won the Champions League? Well, Aguero may have some sort of psychic power, or he may have some sort of crystal ball, because if that happens this season, then he has achieved that goal and he has achieved his own words. Furthermore, as well as helping to win a number of domestic trophies for Manchester City, Aguero also contributed to 257 goals and 73 assists in 384 games for the club so far in his City career, with 181 of them goals coming in the Premier League. He won the Golden Boot in the 2014-2015 season and became the club's all-time top goal scorer, and in the process proved to be one of the Premier League's best all-round top strikers, who was just absolutely lethal and dangerous when it came to being in front of goal. A simply phenomenal talent all round, but where does Aguero stand in the Premier League's all-time top strikers list? In my opinion, you can't necessarily always pin it down to what a player has won to determine how good they are or how better they are than someone else. There may be other circumstances to why a player hasn't won as much, or even why a player has won more than Aguero throughout the years. But maybe let's take a guy like Alan Shearer. Let's take Alan Shearer as the first example. He has only won one Premier League title, but became the Premier League's top goal scorer. History proves he's the top goal scorer in Premier League history, but he's only won one Premier League title. Now, of course, he did play for Blackburn. When he won that Premier League title, he then went on to play for Newcastle, teams that you wouldn't necessarily familiarize yourself with being at the top of the Premier League during the 90s or any time in the Premier League era. So, you know, does that mean that Aguero is better than him because of obviously he's won more trophies, but he was part of a better squad? I don't think so. In my personal opinion, having that record that is going to stand for more years to come, although a certain Harry Kane may have something to say about that depending on where his future lies, I would still rank Shearer above Aguero simply because longevity, having a record that will not be beaten, and obviously just being a part of a team that wasn't as great but still managing to stand out in that team. Another example you can use is Thierry Henry. He made everything he did look so effortless. Like, he was simply a phenomenal talent to watch. You were just in awe every time that he graced a football pitch. It was truly inspiring and phenomenal to watch the Frenchman do what he did. And of course, he was part of some great Arsenal teams down the years. That played some quality football, very easy on the eye kind of stuff, very attractive. And of course, he was part of the Arsenal Invincibles era, the only side in 38 game season to go unbeaten throughout that entire campaign and win a Premier League title. A couple of teams have tried since, they've gone close, but none have gone on to achieve what that Arsenal Invincible team went on to achieve that season. And, you know, back to Henry, in 258 Premier League games, he scored 175 goals. So Aguero played 13 more times than the Frenchman and scored 6 more goals. But I'd still rank Henry above Aguero right now for me, because of obviously everything I just said. That's the only reason why I say that Henry is above Aguero. He played in some great teams. Probably, you can argue they're maybe not as great as the Man City teams that Aguero's been a part of, but he did go on to become an invincible, and that is just simply phenomenal in its own right, although some people kind of play it down a little bit as to not being that great. But for me, where does Aguero rank? Well, after Shearer, after Henry, Aguero can easily take third. I don't think there is a player in the past or in the present right now that can honestly say that they are better than Aguero, better than what Aguero has been, won the things that Aguero has, had the moments that Aguero has had, and obviously have got the goals record that Aguero has had. Harry Kane, maybe in a few years, could arguably take that spot. Maybe even he could go higher because of obviously what he may achieve and depending on where his future lies, as I previously mentioned. But for right now, for me, Aguero takes that third spot. He had everything to his game that you could wish for in the perfect striker, from close range to long range. Had pace, power, fantastic movement, quality left foot, quality right foot, scored plenty of goals with his head, intelligent on and off the ball. Aguero simply had it all, and that is why I rank him third in the all-time Premier League top strikers list, my own personal list. What does the future hold for him? Well, maybe he will follow in the footsteps of players like Fernando Torres and Diego Costa, and maybe he could go back to Atletico Madrid to see out the remainder of his career. Of course, like I mentioned, City bought him from Atletico, so maybe going back there to see out the rest of his career may not be a bad thing. Maybe he will go back to Argentina. That's also a possibility. The unfortunate thing for Aguero is that the past few years have seen him gain a number of poor and bad injuries, and that have significantly halted his playing time. He probably couldn't be a starting striker anymore because it's a bit of a gamble, bit of a risk given those amount of injuries. But if you keep him fit and you keep him healthy, he would be a dangerous option to come off the bench and maybe grab you a couple of goals here and there, and would be a suitable fit for the majority of teams if you deploy him in that kind of aspect. But I highly doubt we will see Aguero in England playing again in this country. We'll quickly touch upon who may succeed Aguero in being the starting striker for Manchester City. Of course, Gabriel Jesus is there right now, but I personally don't think that he's good enough to be a legitimate and long-term starter for City. So that kind of leaves the door open for City to use their wealth, use their money in order to stretch the purse strings a little and maybe bring in someone. And of course, the obvious kind of suggestions would be a Harry Kane or an Erling Haaland. Either would be perfect for Manchester City. I think either perfectly suit what Pep Guardiola wants, and I think that they're both lethal strikers in their own right. And when you've got the kind of service that you've got behind them, and the likes of Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Raheem Sterling, Riyad Mahrez, so on and so forth, when you've got that kind of supply line behind you, any striker is going to have a field day in front of goal, and certainly Kane or Haaland will certainly fit that bill. But we wait and see who succeeds the Argentine going forward. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call them, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of Sergio Aguero's time in the Premier League? What do you make of his Manchester City run, the trophies he's won, the moments he's produced? What was your favourite Aguero moment? Maybe aside from the famous Premier League victory moment, the goal that won the Premier League for Manchester City. Maybe aside from that, because that seems pretty obvious. But what was your favourite Aguero moment? And of course, who do you think will succeed him? Where do you think Aguero will go in the near future? All these thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, I'm sure will make for interesting reading down in the comments section below. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I will see and speak with you all again soon in another video.